Welcome to this session on Tax Inspectors Without Borders, where we are celebrating our decade of niche assistance to developing countries in these OECD Tax and Development Days. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, it is a great pleasure to welcome you all to this special session celebrating the 10 years of Tax Inspectors Without Borders, a milestone that showcases the power of international cooperation in action. At a time when multilateralism is under strain, Tax Inspectors Without Borders stands as a model of practical and results-driven collaboration that delivers real impact. This joint OECD-UNDP initiative brings together OECD's technical expertise in international taxation with UNDP's engagement at country level, working together directly with ministries of finance and tax authorities. Together, and with the support of all our partners, we have been bridging that global expertise with national priorities, ensuring that our support catalyzes not only technical improvements, but broader institutional and systemic reforms that make tax cooperation both effective and sustainable. Since its launch, Tax Inspectors Without Borders has helped mobilize 2.4 billion in collected taxes and 6.39 billion in taxes assessed globally. And today, my colleague Kellen Onusko will unveil the details of the figures, highlighting even greater progress. But as we know well, this initiative is far more than numbers. It is about a partnership. It is about a solid horizontal partnership that is contributing to lasting national capacity, strengthening institutions, and most importantly, reinforcing trust in tax systems. Dear partners, dear ladies and gentlemen, the global tax landscape is evolving rapidly, as we know well, with digitalization, complex financial instruments, and most importantly, sophisticated tax avoidance strategies posing new challenges. At the same time, developing countries are facing mounting fiscal pressures, from debt distress to inflation and economic recovery efforts. The fact is, domestic resource mobilization is no longer optional. It is essential. As emphasized in our global dialogue on public finance and the SDGs back in January, strong, transparent public finance systems are critical for rebuilding trust between the citizens and the state. And when tax revenues are mobilized effectively and reinvested into public services, the entire social contract is strengthened. Today, we will hear from our distinguished panelists from Cameroon, Costa Rica, and Italy, who, moderated by my colleague Marcos Roca, will share how Tax Inspectors Without Borders have strengthened tax enforcement, improved compliance, and driven to tangible results in their countries and the partner countries they serve. All these experiences will help us reflect on lessons learned and explore how we can scale up these efforts. Dear partners, colleagues, distinguished delegates, as we prepare for the fourth International Conference on Financing for Development in Sevilla, today's discussion will be instrumental in shaping our collective approach to advancing international tax cooperation as a pillar of sustainable development finance. It will be also critical as we both, the OECD and UNDP, we are preparing for the version 2.0 of our Tax Inspectors Without Borders that we hope to launch by then in Sevilla. The road ahead demands deeper collaboration, continued investment in capacity development, and an unwavering commitment to fairer and more effective tax systems. I look forward to today's discussion and to working together to build on Tax Inspectors Without Borders' legacy of success. Thank you all and welcome.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us at Tax and Development Days. My name is Kaylin Onesco, and I am a project manager at TIWB. And before I hand the floor over to Marcos and the panel, I'm just going to take you through a brief overview of what is TIWB in case you're not familiar with this initiative, talk about some of the achievements that the initiative has achieved to date, as well as talking about what to look forward to in the future. So what is Tax Inspectors Without Borders? It's a joint initiative between the OECD and the UNDP, and we support developing countries in building tax audit and investigation capacity. Through its technical assistance programs, TIWB complements the broader efforts of the international community to strengthen cooperation on tax matters and contribute to the domestic resource mobilization of developing countries. The objective of the initiative is to enable the sharing of tax knowledge and skills through targeted learning by doing approach. We have experts who are selected to are deployed to host administrations or developing countries, and these experts work with the local experts or local auditors on real audit cases, audit-related issues, or criminal tax investigations. The programs are demand-driven and tailor-made to address the needs of the host administrations across various areas of international tax. We have a number of stakeholders involved in the initiative. So we have the host administrations. These are the developing countries that have requested support from the initiative. We have partner administrations. These are tax administrations, finance ministries, or financial criminal investigation authorities with the expertise and knowledge to share their skills with host administrations. We have TIWB experts from a roster. So these are former or current tax officials with experience in the international tax matters. We have donors, and these are organizations that provide financial support to the initiative and the TIWB programs. We also have international and regional organizations, and so these organizations partner with TIWB to provide experts as well as finance programs. And one of our strong strategic partners is ATAF, the African Tax Administration Forum, and TIWB works with them very closely in the Africa region. And then finally, you have the TIWB Secretariat. So these are officials and staff from the OECD and the UNDP who are working sort of behind the scenes, finding the experts to help support the demands or requests for support from host administrations. So TIWB is celebrating 10 years. It was launched officially in 2015 at the International Conference for Development, Financing for Development. So again, it's a joint partnership between the OECD and the UNDP. We started out fairly small in the sense that we were supporting countries with international tax audits or transfer pricing issues, but requests for support in other areas grew, as well as requests for that kind of support. So over the past 10 years, we have started 155 programs. Most of those programs have happened in Africa, but we are slowly growing around the globe. And to date, we've helped 70 jurisdictions. We have 27 partner administrations who are supporting us. So more than 150 experts from partner administrations have been deployed and sharing their expertise and knowledge with developing countries. We also have 7 partner administrations from the Global South, and we're very proud of these partners because they have developed the skills and knowledge and are willing to share that expertise with other developing countries. Demand for programs continues to grow, and at the end of last year, we already had 11 requests for new programs to be started in 2015. And again, we have a very strong partnership with ATAF in Africa. On this slide, we show you the regional distribution of the programs. So again, we've had 155 programs to date. Most of those programs have been in Africa, but we are expanding around the globe. The other chart on the slide shows you the areas of TIWB support. So I mentioned that initially the program first started with international tax audits. That's where most of our programs are, with 127. But in 2019, the initiative expanded to offer support for criminal tax investigations. And so right now there are 18 of those types of programs that we've started. We have 2 programs in the effective use of automatic exchange of financial account information, or AEOI data. And if you were attending the last session, you would have heard Malaysia speak about their experience with this TIWB program. We also have one program on the effective use of country-by-country reporting, or CBCR. And if you attend the session tomorrow, you'll hear from Peru, who is currently in this TIWB CBCR program. We also have programs for the digitalization of tax administrations. So there's 7 programs going on right now. And we also, the TIWB Secretariat, has everything in place to launch, hopefully this year, the first program on the effective use of, the implementation of global minimum tax, as well as auditing value-added tax on digital trade. So TIWB, there are many positive outcomes that have come from the TIWB programs. The most significant one has been the revenue impact, and Aurea mentioned that impact to date. So far, over the past 10 years, we have helped 70 developing countries collect an additional $2.4 billion in additional tax revenue. We have also helped with the additional collection, or the additional tax assessed of $6.39 billion. You'll see that most of the revenue mobilization has occurred in Africa. Again, most of the TIWB programs have been launched in that region, but we're expanding. But the impact of TIWB goes beyond just revenue. And so, for instance, we have noted that there have been significant organizational enhancements in a number of host administrations, and this can include things like the creation of a transfer pricing unit or an investigation unit. There's also been a reported increase in skills among local officials. Some jurisdictions have also implemented legislative changes based on recommendations made by TIWB experts, and this has strengthened those countries' legal systems. Host administrations have also reported improvements in voluntary tax compliance among multinational enterprises. And the benefits of TIWB programs are not just for the host administrations, but partner administrations and TIWB experts have also reported the positive impacts to themselves. So they've offered peer-to-peer learning opportunities, strengthening collaboration, and fostering international cooperation. So some of the milestones that we want to highlight from last year is that we launched 25 new programs in 2024, and this hasn't happened since 2019. We also closed 24 programs. Generally, a TIWB program runs between 18 to 24 months. I mentioned that we already received 11 requests for new programs to start this year. We had 2 new partner administrations join the network, Argentina and Turkey. The UNDP manages a roster of tax experts, and they've transferred to a new IPSA process. And we hope that this new process will improve cost effectiveness and shorten the time lag between tax experts being deployed to different jurisdictions to help with the TIWB programs. Last year, we offered a number of events, including the Stakeholders Workshop. If you attended Tax and Development Days last year, we also had a session there. We hosted 2 sectorial events and the first ever TIWB Criminal Tax Investigation Showcase. So looking ahead, so TIWB again is celebrating its 10-year anniversary, and we hope to celebrate this at FFT4 in Seville at the end of June this year. We also plan on publishing the 10-year retrospective reports at that time, and this will highlight 10 years of TIWB, as well as announce TIWB 2.0. And so we are looking at how to support the increased request for support, as well as the more specific requests for industry expertise, the requests for support in different areas or new areas, and how do we leverage the existing partnerships or look at new partnerships with other regional and international organizations. So stay tuned for more information on the new TIWB. This slide is to give recognition to our donors. Without their support, we would not be able to support our programs and help our developing countries. So we're very grateful for your support. And if you want to find out more about the Secretariat and TIWB, or you have questions, you'll see our email on the screen. We also have a website. The website's being updated, and so we hope to launch a new one sometime this year. You can find more news about us on Twitter. We also have a LinkedIn page and Facebook. And we also release newsletters every couple of months. So you can sign up for those on our website. And with that, I will hand it over to Marcos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaden. We want to listen to the countries who have been involved in Tax Inspectors Without Borders as hosts and as partners, just to see their experience, to see how things went during the programs. So I'm very honored here to be with three distinguished panelists from Cameroon, Costa Rica, and Italy. And I would like to start by welcoming Mr. Faisal Abdullahi, who is the head of the Division of Legislation and International Tax at the Directorate General of Taxation in Cameroon. And Cameroon has been part in 4 TIWB programs over the years, focusing on building capacity on transfer pricing and international tax audits. I would like to also welcome Ms. Melania Chavarria of the Subdirectorate of Investigation and Fraud Repression in the General Directorate of Taxation of Costa Rica. Costa Rica has been part in 2 TIWB programs, and Ms. Chavarria in particular will discuss about the experience in the TIWB Criminal Investigation Program. And a very special thanks to Melania for being here, because I know it's very early in the morning in San Jose. So thanks for being with us. And finally, I would like to welcome, and please join me in welcoming Mr. Vito Furnari, who is the head of large taxpayer investigation at the Italian Revenue Agency. The Italian Revenue has been a part of TIWB programs for many years. Italy has supported 7 programs in the past decade in 3 countries on the revenue agency side, because we also are proud to partner with the Economic and Financial Police, Guardia di Finanza, on the tax crime programs. And Vito in particular has been very involved in our work for many, many, many years. So we very much look forward to listening to his perspective as a partner. Before moving on to the interventions, I'd like to just make 2 quick housekeeping announcements. First, this will be a multilingual panel. We'll have interventions in French, Spanish, and English, so please adjust the interpretation settings on your Zoom screen as appropriate. And secondly, you will see at the bottom of your screen a Q&A button to submit questions that you may have or comments. My colleague Camille Tirand, who is here sitting next to me, will be monitoring the Q&A. So please feel free to submit your questions or comments throughout the discussion. I will now switch to French. Je voudrais bien commencer
And without further ado, I
avec
would like
Monsieur
to
Faisal
start
Abdoulaye,
with Mr. Faisal
qui est
Abdoulaye,
ici avec
who
nous
is here with us
cet après-midi. Et merci
this
encore
afternoon. Thank you very much for
de
being here.
votre disponibilité,
Thank you
d'avoir
for making
accepté notre
yourself
invitation,
available.
monsieur.
Thank you for having accepted our
Et je
invitation,
voudrais
Mr.
commencer
Abdoulaye.
pour
And
vous
to
poser
begin,
première
I
question
have a
concernant
first question with regards
le renfort
to
des capacités
capacity
qui ont eu
building
lieu
that
lors
has
du
taken
programme
place
Inspecteur des impôts sans frontières
during the
au Cameroun.
TIWB
Est-ce que vous pouvez, s'il vous plaît, partager
programs in
quelques-unes des
Cameroon. Are you
contributions et
able
des
to share a
améliorations
couple of
clés
the contributions and
ainsi que
some of the
l'impact
key
qui a
lessons, as
eu
well as the
l'assistance au
impact
sein de
that
votre
the help has
administration, s'il
had
vous plaît?
within your tax administration? You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup
Thank you very
de
much.
nous passer la parole. Merci au
Thank you very much for
secrétariat
having given me the
d'initiative des
floor.
inspecteurs
Thank
des
you
impôts sans
to
frontières
the
de
TIWB
donner à
Secretariat.
l'administration fiscale
Thank
camerounaise
you
cette
for all of
opportunité
the
de
help that has
lui
been provided to
partager
the
son
Cameroonian tax
expérience
authorities. And thank you for giving us the
dans le cadre de
opportunity to share
l'utilisation de
a
cet
little bit
outil
more about
qui est
our experience.
l'initiative d'inspecteurs des impôts
We
sans frontières,
were
mais aussi une
able to
coopération
benefit
qui
from
a eu un
an
impact
initiative
positif et
looking at
notamment
cooperation that had a very
sur la
positive
modernisation
impact
de
in
notre
the
administration.
modernization of
Alors,
our
il faut dire que
tax authority.
quand nous nous engageons dans cette initiative-là,
When we embarked on this
nous
initiative
venons
with TIWB,
de lancer un vaste programme de
we
réforme et de
wanted to launch
modernisation
a
de notre
vast
administration.
reform program
Et
within the
s'agissant
Cameroonian
spécifiquement de la
tax
fonction
authorities.
contrôle fiscal,
We
la
wanted to
modernisation
modernize our system,
s'appuyait sur
all the
trois
while
principaux piliers. Le
focusing on
premier, c'était la
three main
professionnalisation de cette
pillars:
fonction-là, la
the
gestion de la
professionalization
fonction
of
fiscale.
our
Le deuxième
functions, the
pilier,
tax
c'était la
aspect,
digitalisation de
and the
l'administration de
digitalization
cette
of
fonction.
our
Il fallait
tax authority.
capitaliser
We
la,
wanted to capitalize on
les
the
nouvelles technologies pour mieux
new
administrer cette
technologies
fonction.
available
Et
to
le
better
troisième
carry out our work.
pilier,
And
c'était
the third
donc
pillar
le recours à l'expertise,
was
l'expertise
to
interne,
use
l'expertise au plan local et
internal
régionalement,
and
toutes les
external
formes
expertise.
d'expertise
So not only the
possibles.
expertise that we have
Et
already in
donc,
Cameroon, but also
l'initiative
above and beyond our borders.
s'intégrait donc
The
parfaitement, à notre
initiative
sens,
was
dans cette
completely and perfectly
stratégie et a
aligned
trouvé
with
sa
the
place
strategy that we
dans
wanted to roll
notre
out
stratégie de
and
modernisation de la fonction
slot in well
contrôle,
with the
contrôle
reforms
fiscal.
that we were looking at
Alors, tout de suite, nous nous
within
sommes
the
donc
Cameroonian tax authorities.
engagés et à ce jour, nous
We
avons déjà
were
pu
all hands on
bénéficier
deck straight
de
away.
4 programmes
We were able to benefit
d'assistance
from
internationale. Le premier programme a été
international
lancé en 2017 à
assistant
porter
programs. The first was in
sur les vérifications
2017,
d'entreprise dans le secteur
looking
des
at
lycées, notamment le secteur des
ITC, the ITC
mobile,
sector,
avec des résultats
especially with
très
mobile
concrets.
telecommunications. It was a
Le
very
deuxième
concrete
programme qui
program.
a tout de
The
suite
second
suivi a
program
porté
that
sur le
followed
secteur des
after
banques,
was with the
là
banking
également avec
sector. Once again,
un rendement très
we
intéressant. Le troisième
had
programme
very
qui a été
interesting
lancé
results. The
l'année
third
dernière
program that
apporte,
was launched
puisque le
last year
programme est encore en cours, il porte sur le secteur des ressources
looked at
naturelles, notamment
resources,
le
natural
secteur du
resources,
pétrole
especially the oil industry
et du gaz. Et nous
and the
venons de
gas
lancer
industry.
très récemment,
And
en
we
début
have just launched a
2027,
fourth
un quatrième
program.
programme qui
This was
porte
at the
sur
beginning of
l'exploitation de
2025,
données
and this is at data
dans le cadre de la
exploitation
programmation
in the
et
framework
du
of
contrôle des compétences.
programming
Alors, il faut
audits.
dire que toutes ces interventions, tous
It
ces
is
programmes
important
ont
to say
été
that
des
all of these
expériences
programs, the
vraiment
four
très
programs,
réussies pour le
were
Cameroun, en tout cas avec des résultats
successful
très
for
intéressants,
Cameroon.
déjà
We
au
were very
niveau
happy with the results that we
budgétaire,
were seeing,
grâce à
not only from a
l'intervention
budget point of
des
view,
experts
but also
internationaux,
thanks
nous avons
to
pu
the
améliorer le
participation and the
rendement
help that we received from experts.
du
We were able
contrôle
to
fiscal.
improve the yields
Nous
of our
avons,
tax audits.
du point de vue de l'impact chiffré, nous avons pu
We
identifier et
have also been able
recouvrer
to
près de
identify
5 millions, près de 5
different
millions d'euros de
areas
recettes
where we can still
supplémentaires
improve
dans le cadre de
and where we're able to
ces
deploy
deux programmes
additional
achevés.
efforts
Et nous escomptons
in order to
beaucoup de
meet our
résultats dans le
objectives.
cadre
We
du programme
are looking forward to
spécial
seeing the
qui est encore
results
en cours.
of
Pour
our endeavors in the
l'impact
framework of
budgétaire,
the
le
current
programme a
program that
été
is underway.
aussi
For the budget,
impactant du point de vue du
the
renforcement même des
project
capacités de nos
was
équipes, parce que
important
à l'occasion du programme, c'est
for
vraiment sur le
local
plan
capacity
réel que les
building.
collègues travaillent avec les experts
It is
internationaux.
important for us to be able
Là,
to
il
work
y a
with
un
international
partage
systems as
effectif,
well.
non seulement
We
de
want to look at
connaissances,
efficient
mais
sharing,
également
sharing not only of our
de
knowledge,
compétences.
but also of our skills. We have different know-how, we have new techniques, we have approaches that we're able to share with our colleagues. The idea being not only to work locally on specific cases that benefit from international assistance, but also to widen that net. We've been able to have decisive steps and measures taken with regards to modernizing our system. Furthermore, we want to be able to improve our legal framework from a tax point of view, but just generally speaking. Thanks to the programs, we were able to identify the loopholes or the weak links. This has also allowed us to react in order to find solutions to the defaults so that we're more efficient. From a more strategic point of view now, we have been able to benefit from external expertise, and this has had huge impact in Cameroon for tax audits. We are able to systematically audit big companies in Cameroon using not only local expertise, but also expertise that has come from abroad. And this, once again, thanks to the TIWB initiative and programs. So there you go, in a nutshell. That's a little bit about the results that we've had up to now. And thanks to the programs that we've benefited from with Tax Inspectors Without Borders, we are very hopeful that during the upcoming programs, there will be other domains that will be able to be touched upon. For example, VAT. We're looking forward to welcoming future programs. And we hope that these programs will allow us to be more efficient in our operations. That's all we have to say for the moment. We embarked on this adventure, and we were able to adapt our internal discussions so that we're able to better our work, especially when it came to prevention of certain tax crimes. Thank you very much for listening.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Faisal
Thank
Abdoulay,
you
pour cette
very much, Mr. Faisal Abdoulay. Thank you for taking the floor. I will come back to you with another question in a minute,
pas mal de choses que vous avez
and
évoquées,
bouncing off a couple of
mais
points
en
that
tout
you
cas,
mentioned. But
je me réjouis d'entendre
thank you
que
very much. I'm
il s'agit de
delighted
résultats très
to
concrets,
hear that
selon
you are
vous,
seeing very
et
concrete
c'est
results
ça
in Cameroon.
l'importance primordiale
This
des
highlights the
programmes.
paramount importance of our program.
Merci encore.
Thank you very much.
Je vais passer à
And
l'espagnol
I'm now
pour
going to move
notre
into
prochaine
Spanish for
intervention.
our next speaker.
Quisiera continuar ahora con la
I would
señora
now like
Melania Chavarría.
to invite Melania Chavarría.
de la
Melania
Dirección General de
Chavarría
Tributación de Costa
from
Rica, que
the
estuvo
General
muy
Taxpayer
involucrada,
Division in
incluso a
Costa
título
Rica,
personal, en
was
el
very
programa
involved, even
de
personally,
investigaciones
in the
penales
development of
del
the
Directorado de Fiscales Sin
criminal
Fronteras
investigation
en su
programs
país, con el
for
apoyo
taxpayers without
de la
borders in
Guardia de
her
Finanza
country with the
de Italia.
support of
Y me gustaría
the Italian
preguntarle a
counterparts.
Melania,
I would like to ask
¿cuáles fueron
Melania,
los
what
desafíos o
were
las
the
dificultades que en su
challenges
momento
or
la
difficulties
administración
that
tributaria de
at
Costa
that
Rica enfrentaba
time the
y que los llevó a
tax administration was facing, and that led to your being a part of this Tax Inspectors Without Borders program. You started participating when this was still a pilot program, so it would be very interesting to delve into these details of how that all started. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So it's quite common that tax administrations and domestic entities in a country recognize easily that they have difficulties in terms of criminal investigations and how to carry them out. However, it's not easy to establish the strategies to address them and overcome any difficulties that might arise. In the case of Costa Rica, specifically, before beginning the coordination and the execution of that assistance program, we were going through a self-evaluation process.
Este modelo se basa en la aplicación de los 10
This
principios
model
globales.
was based in the application of global principles in terms of how to address criminal investigations. We realized that Costa Rica needed to address as a priority 3 principles with which we found ourselves at very early stages. Principle number 2, which addresses how the country needs a specific strategy with the specific goals to fight crime. Also, principle number 6 on the importance of adequate resources for investigative processes, whether they be money resources or any other kind. And also the principle establishing that tax crimes should be a precedent for more serious criminal activities. In terms of this assessment, we were able to define what specific areas Costa Rica had to address immediately, all through evaluation. So immediately, the department, this division from tax from TWSB started to address this. This was an introduction, and we held an initial meeting or session where we addressed what resources we did have, which ones we needed, what Costa Rica could bring to the table so that assistance would be successful. So it was truly a type of assistance that was adapted, that was tailored to the country based on what Costa Rica said it needed and how to address criminal investigations.
Muchísimas gracias, Melania, por la intervención.
Thank you so much, Melania, for your intervention, for your remarks, and for highlighting something that I believe is quite clear and that stems from everything that we have talked about today, how all of these actions from Tax Inspectors Without Borders works and how we always try to add to the table along with other organizations through the collaboration in terms of other activities and other things done through all international organizations. So thank you, Melania, for your intervention.
Now moving back to English, I would like to ask Vito Fornari, Mr. Vito Fornari, with apologies for not having interpretation in Italian, I have to say.
No problem.
Italy, Vito has been a very active partner, and I just mentioned 7 programs in 3 different countries through the TIWB initiative. Could you please share some key lessons learned from the experience of the Italian Revenue Agency in providing tax expertise, particularly, of course, in the areas where you mostly focus of transfer pricing and international tax?
Yes, of course. So thank you, Marcos, and good time to everybody. So first of all, just let me thank the Tax Inspector Without Borders Secretariat for this invitation, because sharing opinion and experience with more than 100 colleagues from all over the world is something unique and impressive. So thanks once again. I'm honored. And just today, I'm realizing that the Italian Revenue Agency has been involved in this project since the outset. So in some way, it's also a birthday for the Italian Revenue Agency, and I'm just realizing this one. So I'm double honored for this. But coming back to the topic, no? The experience and takeaways. As you mentioned, the Italian Revenue Agency that today I represent has been involved for many years in international cooperation and dealing with Tax Inspector Without Borders projects. We worked and cooperated with Albania, and that was our first experience. Then we worked with Georgia, and starting from 2019, we started our, let's say now, long-lasting cooperation with Armenia. And with Armenia, we have had, according to me, the most significant experiences. And then I'll tell you why. Because starting the work with Armenia, we changed definitely our approach in dealing with international cooperation and within the framework of Tax Inspector Without Borders. Why? Because actually, when we start our work with Armenia, we had a great opportunity to start a process from the outset. Because at that time, Armenia was just in the phase of introducing the new legislation on transfer and pricing. And this gave us a great opportunity to take care of the whole process, starting from the legislative review till introducing audit procedure and performing audits on the field. So what happened for the first time for us was to have an holistic approach to the problem. So the question was, we don't want just to provide, let's say, assistance in relation to a specific audit case, and that's all. No, along with colleagues from Armenia and along with the Minister of Finance, then we decided to take care of all the key aspects related to the implementation of an institution. That in that case was the transfer pricing regimes. So we decided to shape a broader scope with an holistic approach in order to reach not just short-term targets, but rather medium-term outcomes in order to improve a sustainable and mainly, first of all, stable reform, real changement, structural changement, rather than, let's say, short-term changements. So in which field we cooperated? We cooperated, first of all, in the alignment of the domestic transfer price legislation to the international standards. And together with our colleagues, we worked for reviewing the transfer price legislation in Armenia. But then we moved to an operational aspect. And we tried, and we succeeded in this, also to introduce a new risk assessment system targeted for transfer pricing. Then we moved to the operational procedures, and then at the end, just at the end, we worked together on the field, launching and transfer pricing audit. So we have had a really successful outcomes in this aspect, because at the end of the process, first of all, in Armenia, they established, devoted the transfer pricing team. So we have had a real structural and organizational change there. But they were also able, for example, to introduce a new system for collecting digitally information from multinational enterprises, collecting data useful for the risk assessment. And this is a very added value. This was a really added value in the process. Then we concluded the drafting together a manual for operational procedures to perform an audit in the field of transfer pricing. And then together, along with other colleagues, we worked on the field addressing a transfer pricing audit. But as you can see, this is just the end of a long process, addressing all the necessary steps. Of course, this implies that also from the Italian side, we needed to change our approach in providing assistance. In fact, rather than giving the availability of just one or two experts in transfer pricing, we arranged a multidisciplinary team available for the other countries. So I was at that time the team leader, the project manager, and I had a team of at least 8 experts. But we were also flexible because in case I needed, for example, a legal expert, okay, I could ask for a legal expert. If I needed, I don't know, a TP expert in financial problems, I could ask in financial problems. So there was also a change in our approach. So now, let's say, just to wrap up, because of course we have a limited time, I would like just to list the key lessons, no, as asked by you, and just to be precise. So I think that the first lesson is always take into consideration host countries' specificities and needs in shaping the scope of the cooperation. It's paramount because we don't need just to provide assistance on an audit site without considering the context in which we are operating and maybe if they have other needs. Because I can give you another example. With Armenia, we operated also in another pilot in criminal investigation. But in that case, we were not able to solve the problem just because the legal framework was not ready. So to address just one aspect without considering the context can be a big problem. Second lessons, always take into consideration the work that is being done in the same country by others international organizations in order to avoid overlaps and create synergies. For example, even in Armenia, we have tried always to be aligned with other works performed by, for example, OECD. I could mention, for example, the self-assessment on criminal investigation and the related recommendations. But lately, we have been always in touch and aligned also with the United Nations, UNDP development programs, and the Tax for SDG program launched in Armenia, trying always to be aligned with others. Because only in this way we can leverage the comprehensive efforts in that country. So important. Third, always focus in the long-term outcomes rather than short-term targets, as I said before. And of course, the last topic, for me very important, is always provide a wide range of expertise, possibly, okay, giving the availability of a multidisciplinary teams rather than one single expert. So I think that these are the main takeaways that I have always with me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vito, for that very comprehensive response and take the specificities and the needs of the countries into account, leverage the work with others that is taking place simultaneously. And something I particularly liked, and I think aligns very well with the comments of Faisal and of Melania, think long term.
Yes, think long term. Right? Yes, think long term, because we can be really effective if we are able to change the structure and to make a country independent. or maybe a partner to turn a NOS country into a partner country. This is the goal, the final goal. Yes, to turn a NOS country into a partner country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vito. I will go back to French for my next question. Pour Monsieur Faisal Abdoulaye, en
For
fait,
Mr. Faisal Abdoulaye, I would like to go back to what you said, but also I'd like to talk about the comments made by the other panelists. We're talking about long-term, we're talking about the long term, we're talking about the future. But looking at the future, what are the challenges that you believe your administration still has to take on and tackle that could require additional support? And more broadly, how do you perceive the contribution of TIWB? And do you think, and how can we make sure that the outcomes of this support program be a long-term outcome and be a sustainable impact? I know that this is a rather broad question, but if you could take 3 to 4 minutes to answer it, that would be great.
Merci beaucoup pour cette question sur les perspectives.
Thank you very much for this question on the future.
De nombreux défis liés, entre autres, à l'émergence de nouveaux modèles économiques.
There are different challenges, including the emergence of new business models, new trading schemes, including the digitalization of economies, especially for large companies. And there are a lot of restructurings that were recorded in the past few years, especially post-COVID. A lot of restructuring of companies that are often carried out abroad. But this has an impact, a direct impact on the assets located in Cameroon. And taxing these operations, taxing these assets is really difficult, and this is one of the challenges that we have to take on in the future. And I believe that the help of the TIWB initiative will be useful to help follow up on this and to identify the revenues that should be subject to tax. Also, we have a mining sector that is growing with large groups that are settling in our country in carrying out industrial activities, which is what we are going to have to put into place audit capacity for our administration in this specific field, in order to make sure that we efficiently assess and tax the companies in this sector. Usually, there are companies where there are long investment phases with a lot of capital invested. So we need to audit all of this investment. And this requires additional expertise in this field. And we believe that the initiative could be really useful in that field. But as said before, in Cameroon, we have put into place a tax system for digital trade
les multinationales qui font le
So all
numérique
the M&Es
déclarent et
have
payent
to
la TVA au Cameroun sur les transactions
declare
des services qui sont
their VAT
en ligne.
for all
Jusqu'ici,
online
c'est
services.
essentiellement déclaratif.
Up until now, it's really on a declaration basis. So we only take what's declared. We haven't started any audit activity on this, but we are planning on doing so in the coming years. But for that, we need additional expertise in that field. And I believe that TIWB can be really useful for this. And you rightly worded your question. We need to make sure that the outcomes of this initiative be long-lasting. And to do so, I believe that it's important to really make sure that we have the right approach for the experts' interventions. But we need to give it a dimension that is more maybe transversal, beyond the framework that the experts are working on. We need also to dedicate some time as well to make sure that we also organize sessions that are more broad on a sector-by-sector approach, but also transversal approaches on the audit techniques, on the information gathering, collection, and transfer, on the exchange of information internationally, but also internationally. This is an important tool, especially in the context that we're working in. But in Cameroon, we're already trying to make sure that we do transfer knowledge transfer rather. So as soon as the people who have been trained or who have been working with a TIWB expert is done with the program, they also have to train their peers or other people in the administration to ensure long-lasting results. So this is how we perceive the future. We believe that this is an extremely relevant tool that we need and we will need in the future to continue to modernize our structure in order to continue to modernize our administration. Thank you very much, Faisal, for this very interesting and relevant answer. There are quite a few comments, but also recommendations for us as Secretariat in the future. We can talk about it when it comes to your needs and how we can continue to work with you in the future. So thank you again.
I am conscious of time, but I thank all of the participants for their questions on the chat, on the Q&A. We are answering some of them by writing, but in particular, there's one question which I thought was very interesting from Wolfgang Büttner on the difference between the taxes assessed and the taxes collect in total in the TIWB revenue figures. I just very briefly, this is a comment we constantly make, that the majority of the assessments are based on transfer pricing audits. And in the most cases in transfer pricing audits, you either the adjustment either leads to appeals or procedures, in which case it takes more time for the tax administration to collect the revenue. But also another key factor is that in some cases, the assessments can reflect profit adjustments for the audited years. So not all the assessed amounts are actually collected. I mean, a portion of the assessments can be offset by loss carry forward provisions in the case that the company is loss making, and that of course can reduce the actual tax liability payable and collected. So of course there are some of the reasons, procedural or technical reasons, why there might be a difference between the total tax collected and the taxes assessed in TIWB programs. Consciente del tiempo, le voy a pedir a Melania Chavarría que me diga.
I would like to once again ask Melania Chavarría, now that the program is over, can you share with us one measure that the Costa Rican office has implemented stemming from the Tax Inspectors Without Borders program? Of course, Marcos, the most impactful measure that I would like to mention in this session is that Costa Rica managed to get the country to work together. The principle promoted by OECD, a whole of government approach, had a true impact in our country. Domestic entities in the country are now working together, fighting off tax crimes. We are working in a coordinated fashion. We have a network of contacts, and the results here perhaps cannot be calculated money-wise, but I do believe that medium and long term, the audits that we conduct are going to be monumentally more efficacious and will bring positive changes to the country. Thank you so much, and congratulations for that work.
Vito, you have 1 minute.
Vito.
For telling us in the future, where do you see Italy's role supporting TIWB? 1 minute.
Yes, I'll tell you just 2 sentences, it's enough. For me, the future is the risk assessment management, because it's so fundamental for each tax administration, and implementation pillar 2. I think that we have gained, let's say, a robust experience that we can share with other countries. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thanks to our 3 fantastic speakers for their interventions, really insightful. Thank you, Mr. Faisal Abdoulay, Vito Fornari, Melania Chavarría, for taking the time of being with us. And for the closing intervention, I hand over the floor to my colleague, Head of Tax for SDGs at UNDP, Atesham Khan. Atesham, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcos. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. It's great to see, there are around 750, mostly tax experts across the globe online. I can't see many of you, but I'm sure all of you have been equally amazed and inspired by the discussions that we just had. At a time like this, what Ore also mentioned, in her opening remarks, where countries are struggling with domestic resource mobilization. The global GDP to debt the debt is around 95% of the global GDP right now, and specifically in cases in Africa, this becomes way more acute, where countries are finding very difficult to raise revenues and are paying around 25% in servicing debt itself. So they are looking to mobilizing resources. And we, on this side of the Atlantic, as well as on the other side, we all wake up to the news of tariffs and trade wars and market volatility. And this all drives home the point of the importance of taxation and the capacity of national governments to raise their own revenues. And this is where the importance of Tax Inspectors Without Borders is very paramount. And congratulations to our colleagues at OECD, Marcos, who is the head of TIWB initiative, as well as to the donors who have been supporting the work, and to the roster experts, and to the partner administrations who have been supporting the work. Due to this support, we have been, the numbers that the Secretariat just presented now, it has all been possible through that support, as well as the partnerships that we have. TIWB is a model of partnership, and And one of the greatest partnerships that we have is with the ATAF and, with the other partner administrations. As we move forward, we are looking forward to formalizing this partnership way more together with the OECD. We are working on a memorandum of understanding. We plan to launch the upgraded version of the Tax Inspectors Without Borders. We are planning to have an event at Sevilla. Looking forward to seeing many of you there. And on that note, I know that we are running short on time. So thank you so much to everyone, and congratulations to the colleagues at OECD, and congratulations to the whole team at the UNDP Secretariat of the TIWB, as well as to the OECD and to the roster experts. On that note, over back to my colleagues at OECD. I guess we are taking a break and then starting.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Atisham. Thanks for your intervention and for the constant support of you and the whole team at UNDP. Thank you, everybody, for being with us, our distinguished speakers, for their time. It was a pleasure. Please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll leave you in the hands of the team for the next session. Thank you very much, and we wish you a great day.